Hey, it's me, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and Pharaoh, bro.
Monty and the Pharaoh. The Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Yeah. Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.
Hey! Not get to call off the Russian Nightmare! And you're watching the #1 show on Long Island with Monty and the Pharaoh.
There was no match!
I have never seen that video.
Because it doesn't exist there, Edith. It's not there. The only one answer to that is...
All right, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. We lost Pat Patterson at age 79 yesterday.
Yeah.
Pat was born Pierre Clermont.
Mm-hmm.
He had been battling cancer, which I did not know about.
And now they're going to see a real wrestler, the one, the only, Pat Patterson. I am the Intercontinental Champion, and I'm the best in the world today. From all over the world, England, France, China, Russia, all over. His hand compared to mine. No, not that.
The Intercontinental title begins when I begin watching, basically. You're talking late 79 when I moved out here to Long Island.
Right.
And the Intercontinental title was a brand new thing. I had just started to have full-time access to pro wrestling because I finally had a TV.
Yeah.
And Pat Patterson was this Intercontinental champion. I was always aware of Bruno's belt even as a small kid, so I knew about the WWF World title, and I knew about Bruno. But as I got familiar with pro wrestling, I was like, wow, what's this Intercontinental title? It seems pretty important.
Right.
And right off the bat, right there you can tip your cap already to Pat Patterson because he took a brand new thing and made it acceptable, stabilized it. People, were interested in the Intercontinental belt. He was a great first champion. Pat Patterson was main event material. Pat Patterson was a huge part of our childhood. It's hard for me to say stuff like this publicly. I'm deeply affected that he passed.
Me too. All right, man. History of the Intercontinental title. There's been 86 different Intercontinental champions.
Is that all?
Chris Jericho holds the record for most reigns with 9.
Nice.
The Honky Tonk Man holds the longest reign at 454 days.
Little
Only 3 other wrestlers, Pedro Morales, my man, Don the Magnificent Morocco,
Of course.
and Randy Savage have held a championship for a continuous reign of more than 1 year.
All right, once upon a time in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1979, Pat Patterson defeated somebody, but I'm really not sure. They said he won it in a tournament.
So let me ask you something. I heard
that was a fictitious tournament, folks. They just gave the belt to Patterson.
I heard
and-
on a story.
What?
I heard somewhere that there's actually a video out there where Patterson wrestles DiBiase and hits him with brass
Oh,
knuckles.
he's up. What did I thought you were going to
I
tell me,
have
like,
never
like
seen
he's
it.
pinning the custodian from Maryland High or something like that. There was no match.
I have never seen that video.
Because it doesn't exist there, Edith. It's not there. The only one answer to that is
So DiBiase gets this North American Championship.
yes.
And
Right.
then at some point they decide they're going to make the Intercontinental Championship.
Right.
So they're combining this North American Championship into the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this fake Rio de Janeiro match.
Right.
Pat Patterson's wrestles Ted DiBiase.
Right, supposedly.
Now,
But,
if the fans out there know that there's a video out there, I don't know
Yeah,
this
let's
to
see
be
it.
true. I
Yeah,
have
right.
no idea, but hey, what
They'll
can I
find a
tell you?
video of them from somewhere else and put Rio de Janeiro. See, I told you guys are idiots.
So we know Pat Patterson is the first Intercontinental Champion.
Yep, that's where it all starts.
Pat turns face
Yep.
and loses to Ken Patera, who
Yep.
has been in studio most recently. Ken Patera will then hold the belt for 231 days.
A great reign. I remember it well. Him and Grand Wizard, a great heel. And the first long-running heel to establish.
Now, do you remember some of the great Ken Patera matches for the
Tony
Intercontinental
Atlas.
title? I remember you mentioned that.
Tony Atlas.
Tell me a little bit
Well,
about
Tony
that.
Atlas was a big rival of his, and they were a beautiful match. They were a match made in heaven. Two muscle guys. One an incredible heel with the villainous Grand Wizard, and the other Mr. USA, Tony. I wanted Tony Atlas to win a belt. That's the torture I remember back then.
Right.
Tony Atlas was main event. Give this guy a belt, and he would always come close. I think he beat Patera by countout. The infamous match at Shea Stadium where Tony Atlas presses Ken Patera. So, yeah, I remember quite a bit about that whole first run with Patera, but you know what's coming next. Because I don't even have to be able to see this, which
Go
I
ahead.
can't, by the way,
Might
folks.
as well say it.
Is the guy who basically wrecked our childhood, Pedro
Yes.
Morales. Pedro Morales comes along, and you know what's funny, though? I was looking, of course, into this whole subject over the last few days of the Intercontinental title, and I watched multiple videos on Morales, and it was hammered into my head more and more. Here's the facts. It's Pedro Morales
Right.
that truly, in the eyes of the fans, established the Intercontinental title.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's kind of mind blowing because at the time we as just new fans couldn't stand him because we like the bad guys, so we were like rooting against him with all our might, and this man would win.
So here comes my hero, Don Morocco.
Here
Now,
he
this is where, we were young and we weren't thinking, but Morocco wrestles Morales. Now, remember what I said, folks. It would always be Backlund, Morales. Mm-hmm. Morocco challenges Morales before he challenges Backlund.
I knew from the moment I had another advantage over you because I've been watching a little longer. I saw Morocco in Florida Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley announcing, and I knew that Morocco was a top-shelf villain, and that when he came here, he was going to beat Pedro. I could feel it.
Really?
Yeah, Morocco.
I don't remember you saying that when we
You
were
know
younger.
what, though? Well, you know what?
I think you full.
You really? Well, I could be.
Morocco only holds the belt for $1.56. Now, again, as an old...
Nowadays, that's incredible.
I know, but as older fans, holding the belt was really important. The longer you held it was very impressive,
Yeah, sure.
right?
Of course.
Pedro wins the belt back.
That was a nightmare.
In Madison Square Garden,
I couldn't
which
believe that.
crushed us.
Crushed
us. Unexpected. It was I didn't even understand.
See, now you're full of because we knew it was coming.
We did?
Yeah, we did, and we dreaded it. We could see that Pedro was coming back to take his belt. And I remember when he returned to TV, clapping his hands. He ready for any kind of action. Remember that
That's
stuff? I'm
right.
like, oh,
That's
no,
right.
here he goes with the left hand to the belly. Here we go
Pedro
again.
would hold the belt for 425 days.
Killed us, man.
And Morocco, who I loved. Now, guess that. 425 days. You're talking Morales
Dude.
just knocking off every one of these bad guys that we're rooting
It's
for.
almost a shame we don't have that list because that would have been an interesting list to look at. The guys Morales knocked off.
Morocco finally puts one of our most hated guys out, Pedro Morales.
And here comes.
And here comes who's been in here.
Several times.
Mr. Tito Santana.
Our good friend.
Who defeats Don Morocco.
Yeah.
At the Boston Garden.
Yeah.
I remember that match.
Yep.
And Morocco then eventually goes on a shelf, disappears for a while, comes back, but this isn't about Morocco.
Right.
And then here comes our main man,
My guy.
Greg Valentine.
There we go.
To destroy Tito Santana.
Yep.
He beats him in Canada.
Yep. He had a great reign.
285 days.
Yep. That was awesome.
But then in Baltimore, Maryland,
Hmm.
Tito Santana defeats Greg Valentine
Pedro.
in a steel cage match. A
Yeah.
steel cage title
Yeah,
change.
they had a great
The
rivalry.
first of their kind,
That was a
I
great
believe,
yeah,
in
that
the
was a-
WWF.
That was a great rivalry.
That being said, Greg Valentine then takes the belt that's in front of us right now,
and
in his anger,
somehow tore it to pieces.
and tore it to pieces, which is pretty hard to do, right?
Impossible.
I don't know.
Wait a minute, though. You see, we've met Greg, several times. He's got those hands, though.
I don't know if
It's
he can rip this. This is thick leather,
I don't know.
dude.
Yeah, you can't rip the metal. You can rip the. Yeah, you know what? Greg's an angry guy. Oh my God, how did he do it?
So
Crazy
so
stuff.
where, Pharaoh, does the Intercontinental title weigh in your mind as belts?
That's obvious. I mean, to me.
Any belt, U.S. belt, NWA
it's
belt.
It's number two.
Number
It's-
two.
It's the number 2 belt in the company. I'll always look at it as the number 2 belt in the company, and it is what it is. I'm a little disappointed over the years. It used to mean when you held that belt, you actually were the second best wrestler in the company in the pecking order. It
Right.
used to mean that. The era we've been discussing, that's what it used to mean. Nowadays, not so much.
Well, I've always felt like they
that's a
tried
bit
to
of a
push the
shame.
U.S. title up, and if people don't remember, they actually retired the Intercontinental title in 2002.
Now, you know what's interesting? What happens next, pretty much in the lineage of the history as we're going along here.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting. What happens is that the Intercontinental title at this point has either been showcased by a former world champion, Pedro Morales, or a guy who couldn't beat Backlund like a Morocco or a Valentine.
Right.
Now things get very interesting because the next champions that start to come along are guys like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Who wins the belt before challenging for the heavyweight
becoming the great legendary world heavyweight champion.
Sure.
So now the Intercontinental title is fully matured and is serving its purpose to now groom the next champion.
Yes.
It has changed its purpose.
Wow, well
it's
said.
very, very interesting how that happened. A guy like Savage, a guy, great Intercontinental champions who went on to be great world champions. A guy like Bret Hart, a guy like Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
These guys, over the next 10 years, after the period we've just left off at, pretty much are carrying and showcasing this title as this is the belt you win before you become the great one, the top guy. You know?
I agree.
And just some incredible matches. One of the greatest Intercontinental title match moments, if we can, since we're, in the late 80s and, here and there. What about that incredible moment where Honky Tonk said, I'll wrestle anybody. I'll take on anybody. I don't care who it is. Well, and whoops, it's the Ultimate Warrior. And here he comes. This guy was as hot as the 85 Bears. I mean, this guy comes flying out. And what was it, 31 seconds or something like that? Destroys a guy who, how long was his reign? The longest reign in the history of the belt. Honky Tonk Man's reign. And Warrior comes out and decimates it in 31 seconds. And guess what? The fans loved every single millisecond of it.
One of the great Intercontinental moments for me, personally, was there was a time where Captain Lou Albano managed Don Morocco, right?
Right.
And Morocco wrestled such greats as Rocky Johnson, Jimmy Snuka. We all know about
Morocco
that.
was top of the card.
There was a point where Captain Lou Albano managed Iron Mike Sharp.
Yes.
And Iron Mike Sharp had the black armband, and he would hit people, and he'd put the metal in there.
Iron Mike Sharp was actually pretty high up on the pecking order at one point.
So I used to go to
enough.
the Garden every month. Okay, it was a big thing for me, and I became an Iron Mike Sharp fan also. There was a moment where Morocco, in between I think Johnson and Snuka, wrestles Iron Mike Sharp for the Intercontinental title. Albano is managing both wrestlers.
Wow.
And he's actually helping both wrestlers cheat to win.
I remember.
And Morocco ends up winning the belt, winning the match.
Of course, he defends the title.
Right. But for me,
that's classic.
That's my moment. Like Meadowlands started playing a bigger role in the WWF. Morocco, again, I keep talking about Don Morocco. Morocco has to defend his belt against the great Mexican hero, Mil Mascaras. And if everybody knew anything about Mil Mascaras, this guy never lost.
Right.
He beat everybody.
And if he was losing, he wouldn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
sorry,
being
Adam.
younger, I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, Morocco is going to lose his belt at the Meadowlands to Mil Mascaras, and I'm not going to be able to see it, and this is going to be terrible. Long story short, I think Morocco got counted out, but the point of the matter
still
is,
doesn't lose.
like, to me, as a fan, God, did I want to see Morocco against Mil Mascaras. Angry, right? Because we were homers for Madison Square Garden and Nassau Coliseum.
Right.
Angry that we didn't get that type of match. But what meant the most for you for this particular title?
Well, as far as personal memory goes, and I hope I'm remembering this completely accurately, I saw Rob Van Dam win the Intercontinental title. You know how I love Rob Van Dam. Come on. I do believe I saw Rob Van Dam beat Benoit for the Intercontinental belt. And that was pretty damn amazing.
And that's the highest on your list?
Dude, think about those two in the ring. You know what kind of match that was? That was ridiculous. What a clinic. You know, you got the mat technician against the pinnacle of high flyers, and they made it work. And yeah, it was great to witness live. You know, that was great. I got to be honest, that honky tonk memory is very big for me when Warrior came flying down.
For any wrestling
That was
fan,
huge.
that is so
Wembley
huge.
Stadium,
Oh my God.
Hart and Bulldog,
Beautiful.
was absolutely huge. Hart and Mr. Perfect, 91 for the belt.
You know,
Oh my! No, go back and look at that one. Oh my God!
I don't know why that doesn't resonate for me.
Here's another one, 2009. How about this? I'll jump ahead. 2009, in a period where wrestling was threatening to really take a poop, and CM Punk was just around the corner. The match of the year, Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio with the mask. Do you remember when he tore off the mask and there was another mask?
Yeah, right.
The rematch that they had where Rey gets his vengeance. That was one of the greatest Intercontinental title matches ever. And fortunately, Jericho's involved in it.
I
with
love
Mysterio.
your
Incredible.
comment on the Bulldog Bret Hart match.
That was
I mean, that
just-
was one of the great.
By the way, that's the loudest pop you may ever hear. It's one of the loudest pops you may ever hear. Of course, it was in England, Wembley Stadium. The Bulldog gets the win. The place explosion.
Here's one that you might laugh at me, but for some reason it holds really well for me.
Yeah.
SummerSlam, Texas Tornado against Mr. Perfect.
Get out of here!
I
really?
freaking love that match.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a Kerry Von Erich mark too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
look,
you
let's
are.
not forget, really, in my opinion, probably the greatest Intercontinental match, and maybe probably one of the greatest matches of all time, in my opinion.
WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3. Of
course.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat,
course.
Randy Macho Man Savage.
You
oh
know,
my God.
you know what a bitter bird I am about that match to this day. I still am so pissed that Savage lost the match. I'm such a mark. That's right. I'm saying it. I was like so annoyed that he lost the match through the interference of George Steele. It bothers me to this day. The greatest match has that ending. Bothers me to this day. I would prefer a better ending.
You keep saying that. You keep
I
saying
would
that. I get
prefer
it.
a better ending. But you know what? It didn't matter. The crowd loved it. George's love affair for, Liz, the whole thing. So, yeah, it worked. Oh, another cool thing. How about 2004? We're at the point at 2004 where the belt is so established, and it's now shown that if you win this belt, you're going to be a future world champion.
Right.
How about this match in 2004 where the Kid said, "I have arrived." Randy Orton defeats Cactus Jack. That was a bloodbath. And that also put Randy Orton, his first strap, the Intercontinental, it's got him down his road. There's been a lot of classics over the years.
Here's my problem with some of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The wrestling at that point came in, like, you won a belt, you lost it weeks later, no matter what.
Right.
It was like you never held on to a title.
Right.
That's what I don't get.
But
It's-
it was important, though, at the time for Randy to get that title and to defeat somebody of Cactus Jack's status.
So let's talk about that.
That was important.
Pedro Morales,
Early
2
on.
reigns, 619 combined days.
That's insane. We got tortured for almost 2 years?
The Miz. Now this is kind of ridiculous.
I respect
8 reigns.
I respect
for 597. So he's had the most combined days.
Yeah.
But over 8 reigns.
Right, and when
if
you
really
break
look
it
at that,
down,
it's like
a month or two.
Yeah, it's like
It's
come
no
on.
big thing. Pedro's, you break it down, it's a year apiece.
Don
or so.
Morocco for 541.
2 reigns.
Not
Right.
bad.
That's amazing. That's
Honky
great.
Tonk Man won.
That's the
454.
We could stop right there. That, to me, as I've told you 1,000 times, that is the greatest reign in the history of the Intercontinental title.
So speaking of that,
And it ended in 31 seconds at Madison Square Garden.
boy, do we love this belt. The Intercontinental title. Boy, I was
you think?
excited to do this show.
Yeah.
So
We should do the other belts, too. We should do shows on the other belts.
Sure.
Some of them.
some of them.
Not the hardcore.
Again, we're little homers. We'd probably have
Not
to do a little NWA maybe.
Let's do the light heavyweight title.
Well, maybe
Let's
next time we'll
not.
do like an NWA thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Like maybe like the TV championship.
No, I would want to do the world title into the WCW thing.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that would be cool.
All right.
All right.
So Pharaoh,
Yeah.
here's the question.
Question.
Who is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time?
Oh, can you go first while I sit here and tie my brain up? This is
All right, guys. So this is like
is
this is
rough.
difficult.
This
okay?
is very difficult.
I'm going to explain my thought process.
I'm looking
on
at
this,
like
and
10 names.
and I'm going to weigh in.
Yeah, go on.
So when you think about the Intercontinental Champion, right?
Hmm.
Most of the heavyweight champions, held the Intercontinental Championship at some
major
time
ones
or another,
Some
right?
major ones did. Yeah.
There's guys that were great Intercontinental Champions, but when I say their name, I don't think of them as Intercontinental Champion.
Correct.
So I'll use examples for the folks out there.
Very correct.
Bret Hart.
Right.
To me, he's a world champion, not an Intercontinental
An
champion.
awesome Intercontinental champion,
Absolutely.
but he's a world champion first. I agree.
Randy Savage.
Same thing. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I would go
World
and
champion
say
first.
Shawn Michaels.
I agree. World champion first.
Right?
Yep. I'm following.
Pedro Morales.
World
Great-
champion first.
World champion first. Really,
World-
he was.
For 2 years!
He was really world champion.
Tried being champion in the early 70s for 2 years.
So,
oh, yeah. World
I'm-
champion
I'm
first.
actually-
Pedro
look,
Morales, yes.
You can't disregard the greatness
No.
that Honky Tonk Man brought to the belt. Okay?
Nope.
And you can't disregard Razor Ramon, who was never a world champion.
That's right.
So he, to me, is an Intercontinental Champion.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you, in Mike Monty's opinion,
This is going to be
the
interesting.
greatest Intercontinental
If
champion
you get the
of
same
all time
name that I do, I'm going to freak.
is Mr. Perfect.
Oh, my God!
Kurt
You're
Hennig.
kidding me. That's exactly what I think.
Really?
Yep.
Right there, brother.
Wow, that was, you know what?
Tell me why.
That was perfect.
That was perfect.
That was perfect.
Tell me why.
Because for the very reasons you stated, when it comes to, boy, oh boy, when it comes to the Intercontinental title, I think of it as who represented the belt the best.
Yes. Yes.
Who represented the belt on a main event level where you basically said, this guy might as well be champion. He's so great. He is the champion.
That's right.
Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect was an absolute thing of beauty to watch when he was doing his deal. You know,
Two title reigns for 406, by the way. Not too shabby.
And by the way, when we're using that premise that remembered as the Intercontinental champion, Rick Rude gets a huge thumbs up.
Absolutely.
Who else would get a huge thumbs up when you start to think about that one? You know who would get a huge thumbs up? And I know he's a world champion first, but Chris Jericho deserves,
I was going to say
deserves
Jericho.
so much
Absolutely.
credit. I mean, after all, he's got the 9 reigns. You know, again, we broke it down mathematically. They're not long reigns, but from time to time, Jericho would put that strap on him and remind everybody, this belt means something. And Jericho, because it was on his waist. You know, thank God he kept the dang thing going. You know,
right.
when you think about it. And that's why I do appreciate, if I can get it in quick, Ziggler and The Miz over the last 5 years fighting over that belt. Miz has had it, 8 times? Ziggler's had it 6 times. At least there's 2 good wrestlers, 2 good polar opposites who are great in the ring giving us something over this title. You know, we got it. This title is a great title. And outside of the world title, there is no greater title in the land of Vince McMahon. This is it, you know? So... who else would represent?
Well, let's make it okay.
Tito
so
Santana was a great
we've established
champion.
Mr. Perfect as number 1.
I think he is.
Give me your top 5 in order.
Oh, what are you
Intercontinental champion.
All right, fine. I'll put Perfect first. I'll put Honky Tonk second.
Fair. I'm right now. You and I are right together.
I'll put Rick Rude third. Who's a great Intercontinental champion.
I'm gonna go with Razor Ramon third.
Okay, you know what? They can interchange. How does that sound?
That's fair enough.
Because he'll be 4 or 3. Him and Rude, right?
Absolutely.
How do you discount Rick Rude? My God, at number 5, can't we just split Morocco and Valentine and call him Greg Morocco?
Fine.
I mean,
I am in full agreement with you on the top 5.
Well, there you have it, folks. This list is absolutely perfect.
So let's go through it again. Perfect.
yeah.
Who was next?
Honky Tonk. You gonna
Yep.
try to make me remember what I said a minute ago?
Honky
we got
Tonk,
we
man.
got then we got
We're old
Ramon
folks.
and
Razor
Rude,
Ramon and Rude,
you know, and then
and
a
Valentine
tie
and
between
Morocco.
Valentine and Morocco. Hey, we're the good guys.
Unfortunately, Mr. Patterson, who passed away, did not make our top 5.
Well,
But,
different. He had a different impact. It doesn't. Without him, it doesn't even start.
Right.
You know, and his first script was great. The turning face and everything like that. So that stuff was awesome. And Ken Patera was a great Intercontinental champion too, by the way. He's probably sitting at home. Why don't you mention me?
So speaking of perfect, then
sorry, Mr.
you
Patera.
said, I guess your favorite match was Perfect and Bret Hart. Was your favorite match?
No, I go back to the ladder match exchanges between Shawn and Razor.
No, but I mean, is Mr. Perfect, if he's the
Oh,
best
yes,
Intercontinental
yes.
champion? I want to thank the Intercontinental title for
Yeah.
giving us some
Yeah,
of the.
thanks.
53 years
Does
old.
this belt get benefits?
This belt's going to get some benefits. At 53 years old, the Intercontinental's title has given us 40-something years
Yeah.
of incredible love,
A lot of
and
greatness.
excitement.
A lot of greatness.
I mean, one match we didn't speak about. And
Yeah.
you know what? I have to
China?
apologize.
How can we not mention China?
I have to apologize. To me, the second greatest Intercontinental title
Not
match
China
of all
beating
time.
Jericho. I was
No.
so pissed. Go on.
No. And you know what? We were so focused.
The Jericho hold.
And I think you're gonna agree with me.
What do you got?
Jimmy Superfly Snuka, steel cage against Don Morocco.
Hello.
How do we forget that match?
We can't forget that. Well, that was at night. We didn't cut school for that, but we probably didn't do our homework. That's for sure.
Well, I went.
Oh, you were there?
I was there.
How do you go without the Pharaoh?
Dude, you were like,
Was
your
I getting
mother
high?
wouldn't let you. You're in trouble or something. You might have gotten high. Yeah, it could have
It
been
is
getting
high school. I was listening to Maiden. There's never been a greater title outside of the WWE heavyweight title. I think back on all the fantastic matches, especially early in our childhood. The belt's always been important. The belt's been through some crap. It was even retired, as we mentioned, off air. Wasn't this thing retired in the early 2000s? I was
Absolutely.
like, what on earth are you guys doing? Bring this thing back. It wasn't retired long. It has always afforded the opportunity. Thank God for its existence. There's way too many wrestlers, especially today. When you look at the size of the roster of the WWE and all the other, we've already said that the rest of the other rosters could have a card on their own, a super card. This belt, thankfully, with all these, the plethora of too many wrestlers, this belt has always, thankfully, been there for a guy like Jericho who deserved to hold the title.
Absolutely.
Or nowadays, if it's The Miz, I think The Miz fits the shoe real well. This is a guy who should have a belt of some kind, and he's been the face for many years now as far as this belt goes. This belt has more than served its purpose and given us back great joy. It's a classic.